Hello, parents. I'm glad to have you joining us for this awards and showcase program for Debate 201 here at Capitol Debate for 2020. I'm really excited to be sharing with you everything that we're going to be doing today. My name is Jonathan Savoy, and in case you hadn't been receiving my emails, I am the face that has been connected to all of those emails some of you have been receiving this week, and I've also been your children's instructor for Debate 201 for this week of camp. And I just want to say that I am very excited to be sharing the program that we have for you today. This is the culmination of, for most of these students, 2 weeks of camp and a lot of hard work this week. Some of these students took Public Speaking and Debate 101 several weeks ago, and one of them actually hadn't taken that course and jumped in with both feet this week and has done a really great job. So these students are to be commended for all of the hard work that they've done this summer, and especially all of the hard work that they have done this week, because there is a lot that goes into learning how to debate. There's a lot of skills, there's a lot of development in your mind that has to go on to learn how to think properly and how to reason and make arguments. And these students have done a great job focusing and picking that up. I am very proud of them for what they've accomplished. So we want to take some time here at the beginning of our program to recognize them for the things that they've done and for all the accomplishments that they have achieved. So as we move into this award ceremony, I want to put into perspective a little bit of what we've been doing in Debate 201, just so you know what these students have actually done this week. When these students came in, some of them had written a speech before, but maybe they didn't have that much experience with public speaking outside of a week of camp. And so this week was a big step up for many of them. Not only have they been working on speaking and presenting this week with their presentation skills, they've added a whole lot of debate and argumentation skills on top of that. These students have learned how to give refutation speeches, how to question someone on cross-examination, how to answer tough questions you get when someone else is questioning your ideas. They've learned how to present their ideas effectively and quickly, even when you just have a minute or two or three to say something. They've learned how to summarize really big ideas in a way that makes a difference for the audience and means something to them. These students have learned how to do research and apply it to a speech, to an argument, how to structure their arguments in a way that's actually persuasive. So many different skills have gone into the presentation that you'll be seeing in just a little bit. So we want to recognize each and every one of these students for all the work that they have been putting into this week. So on your screen, you see this is the group. This is the group that we had in Debate 201 this week. 6 students and myself, and we made a great team this week. These kids got along together really well. These kids supported each other, they helped each other, they encouraged each other. We got really competitive during a lot of games this week and had a generally fun time. And even though we've done a lot of serious things this week, it's always good to know that these kids have a goofy side to them as well. And we've seen a lot of their fun personalities coming together this week with all of the activities that we've done and the experiences that we've had together. The first individual student that I would like to recognize in our awards program this afternoon is William Liu. William Liu. William was the one student in our class that had not taken Public Speaking and Debate 101 with us this summer, but that didn't stop William from doing a great job. He wrote a very clear, excellent speech. He's very good at arguing, and he knows his stuff. He knows his statistics, and he does good research. So we're very proud of William for everything that he's done and everything he's been working on this week. I can't wait for you to see him in the showcase in just a few minutes. So congratulations, William. Our next debater that we'd like to honor and recognize this afternoon is Evan Wren. Now, Evan is a student who is very studious, and that's the way I would have to describe him. Evan takes very copious notes. He's paid attention all week long. He's very thoughtful. Even when other people are speaking, I would often see Evan bending over his notepad furiously, trying to take note of everything that was going on so he didn't miss any details. And that has served him well this week. He's done a great job. He's put in a lot of hard work and effort into his debates. And I hope that you'll be proud of him when he gets to show you the skills that he's learned, he's been working on this week. Congratulations, Evan. The third student we'd like to recognize is Jay DeBral. Now, Jay is our resident Eagles fan, as you can see in his photo here. He's been a great addition to our team this week. He's got a really fun personality. He's very creative. And he's also come back for Debate 201 for the second time this summer. So he's put in a lot of extra effort into this. He's been very good at taking feedback. He's been very excited to continue to grow and push himself further. And I've seen him make a lot of progress since the beginning of the week. So just because this is the second time he's done Debate 201 with us, it doesn't mean that he came in knowing everything that he needed to know. He's been really open to learning and continuing to grow, and we're very proud of him for that. I can't wait for him to show you everything that he's been working on. Congratulations, Jay. Next, we have Leanna Gertz. Leanna is the person in our class who can fill all of the dead silence in the morning. When everyone else is tired and sleepy and still having their blankets pulled up over their heads and faces, Leanna is the person who shows up like the bright ray of sunshine every single morning, ready to jump into the discussion and the conversation and talk about her day and everything that she hopes to do. And she's very encouraging, constantly smiling, always excited, enthusiastic. So we're very thankful to have had Leanna joining us this week. Leanna's done a really great job of working on expressing her ideas clearly and in a sophisticated way. She's done a great job of constructing her speech and her arguments. We've done a lot of work with revising her speech this week, and she's put together some really good things that I can't wait for you to hear in the showcase program. So congratulations, Leanna. Next, we have Gia Gupta Kagan. Now, Gia might not be the first one to speak up all of the time, but Gia always knows what's going on. She's very attentive in class. She's good at reasoning things out. And she also has a lot of fun personality to share with the group, even if she's not the most outspoken among us. It's been really great to have Gia with us. She's worked a lot on working through her cross-examination skills and her refutation skills. And even just today, this morning, while we were practicing, I was impressed by how far she's come since yesterday and Wednesday. So there's a lot of great things that you're going to get to see from her today. And we're very proud of all the work that she's done. Congratulations, Gia. And finally, we have Samuel Kahn. Now, Samuel's brought a lot of laughs and giggles and smiles to us this week. He's got a great personality, and he's really good at cracking jokes and making us laugh in class. But Samuel is also a very hard worker, and he's very perceptive. He's quick on his feet. He's a quick thinker. He's a sharp guy. He's been doing an excellent job with his refutation skills, and he's been very fierce on cross-examination this week and questioning his opponents and making them answer the tough questions. So we're very proud of him for everything that he's been doing, everything that he's done and accomplished for today. And I can't wait for you to get to see some of that in just a little bit. So congratulations, Samuel, on everything that you've accomplished and achieved. Now, parents, just as we have been working with your students to help them learn to find their voice and to share it with others in a convincing and persuasive way, we would like to ask you to share your voice with us by taking our parent survey. You can find that at parentsurvey.capitaldebate.com. Please do share your feedback with us. Everything that you share with us is something that we're interested to hear, because you sharing that feedback with us and our team is critical to us continually improving our programs. This is the first summer that we've run our programs this way. And if there are things about them that you really liked and that you thought were really helpful, please let us know. If there were things about our virtual programs that maybe didn't go so well or were a little difficult for you and your family, let us know about that as well. We'd love to hear from you so that we can continually improve our process and serve you and your family better in the future here at Capital Debate. Of course, this does not have to be the end of your time and experience with Capital Debate for your family or your child. Just because this might be the end of our summer classes, that doesn't mean that we don't have any other opportunities. For example, starting next week, we have fall after school classes that we are offering in lots of different categories. Classes in informative speaking, extemporaneous speaking, basic persuasion, improv, critical thinking, confidence and assertiveness. So many different things that are coming down the pike towards you for this fall that we would love for you to be able to take advantage of if you're able to. If you would like to see certain classes and times that you would like to see those classes offered for the coming weeks for your child, because you think you would like them to continue on in their training and education, let us know by filling out a survey at fallsurvey.capitaldebate.com. I know that there's multiple surveys here for you to fill out, but we really are interested to hear about how we can best serve you and support you as you strive to help educate your children and grow them in their skills. Of course, the fall after school classes and those programs are not the only offering that we have for your children coming up here shortly. I would also like to tell you about a really special opportunity that each and every one of the students in this class specifically can take advantage of. And that's our 2020 to 2021 Debate League. Registration is open now, and if you take advantage of it, here's what your child will be able to do. Your child will have the opportunity to participate in competitive monthly debate tournaments on the weekends, which means that your student would get to compete with other students just like them, virtually, similarly to what they're doing today. And not only that, they would get to meet weekly with a coach to get practice and advice. Just because they're starting school or just because the summer is over, that doesn't mean that has to be the end of their training and practice. So we'd love to offer that to you as well. Weekend workshops and clinics on specific topics from some of our expert and really fantastic teachers and instructors here at Capital Debate, as well as online resources that can be available to your child throughout the school year as they continue to work on their writing, their speaking, and their persuasive skills. So if that's something that you would be interested in finding more information about, or if that's something that you would be interested in pursuing as an opportunity for your child, I would strongly encourage all of you to reach out to us about that. Because I can say without any doubt that after today and the things that I've seen from these students are ready to keep stepping it up to the next level, building more experience, more practice, and building on the foundation that we have laid this week in Debate 201. Of course, if you would like to get more information about Club Debate League, our fall class programs, or anything else that we are offering in the future, please reach out to us at 800-450-5012 for our main office number, or you can reach out to team@capitaldebate.com. We'd love to get someone in touch with you who can help answer your questions and give you any information that you might need so that we can serve you better. And now we come to the part of this afternoon's program that I know all of you have been waiting for all week long. This is my favorite part of the week, and I know that the students are very excited. I've had students asking me about their showcase debates for several days now, and now the moment has finally come. So we are ready to transition into our Debate 201 showcase debates.
Jonathan, I'm gonna want to jump in and I want to thank you before you move on to your ceremonies to parents and to students. Jonathan has taken almost his entire summer, I think over 10 weeks, to be with us this summer and to work with the students, and he's done a phenomenal job. He's an amazing instructor. You students have been very fortunate to have such an experienced instructor this week, and I know he's going to continue with us on the fall. But I wanted to just make sure I came in for all your hard work, Jonathan, in front of the parents and students, and thank you. for everything you've done and the differences that you've made in all these students' lives. I can really see a remarkable job. So thank you. And I am going to, where the real show is the students, but I'm going to jump off the screen now, but I just wanted to say hi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ron. I appreciate that so much. But I have to say, as many weeks as I've been doing this summer, the real joy has been in watching all the progress that these students have made. And I can't wait to share that with you for your children for this afternoon. They are the reason that we do what we do. They are the reason we show up every morning and turn on the laptop and get ready to teach. They're the reason we get out of bed and get excited about debate. Because debate isn't just an activity. It's about working with these kids. It's about helping them develop and grow and become better thinkers and speakers. And I'm very proud of all the work that these 6 kids have done this week to be able to do that better. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first pair of debaters for our program this afternoon. First, I would like to call on Jay DeBral and William Liu. So gentlemen, if you will join me on the screen. Jay and William are going to be debating on the topic, government regulation of social media companies does more good than harm. Jay will be our pro speaker, which means that he will be advocating in agreement with that topic resolution, that government regulations do more good than harm, while William will be our con speaker, our contrary position, meaning that he'll be disagreeing with that statement, arguing for a position where the good of government regulation does not outweigh the harms. So gentlemen, if you're ready to begin, I'm ready when you are. Jay, you'll be our first speaker. I have 4 minutes on the clock, ready whenever you're ready to start.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Imagine a world where a gunman can live stream a shooting. Well, you don't have to imagine that anymore. Matthew Rail live streamed him shooting 6 people. 1 person died and 5 people were injured that day. Zachary Parrish was only 29 when he died that day. It was sad for 2 reasons. 1, he had a family and his 4-year-old daughter said, "It's okay, Mama, just be happy." And 2, social media didn't even know about the stream until the big fight. This wouldn't have happened if Matthew Rail knew the stream wouldn't have been seen, and if he knew it would have been took down. But he knew that it wouldn't have been took down, so if social media had a better team, then he wouldn't have done it. Government regulations on social media companies do more good than harm. I think that's true because 1, cyberbullying is just skyrocketing every day, so the government should regulate social media to make it go down. And 2, I'd rather have more safety than less freedom. Yes, than the other way around. My first point is that government regulations will cut down cyberbullying. Social media might be doing all they can about it, but it's clearly not enough because cyberbullying is going up every day. My evidence is that the CDC said 4,400 people die in a year because of suicide involved with cyberbullying. They also said that most of the people that commit suicide are girls from 10 to 14. So if we want to protect them, then let's regulate social media. First Sight Guide says that 1 in 6 teenagers get bullied, and that's a very, very large number. They also said that Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat are the big 3 in cyberbullying. If the government regulates social media, then cyberbullying, with everything involved with it, will go down. Nothing against Facebook, but would you be more scared of Facebook or the government? The government, because if you get banned on Facebook, who cares? Just create a new account. But if you get banned on the government, there may be more consequences depending on the situation. And my second point, and last, government regulations will be better because social media companies aren't doing that great of a job at regulating. The 2016 election was influenced by social media and a lot of fake news. But first, millions of people go to social media every day for news, and a lot of those stories might be fake news. And people will be misinformed and potentially do the wrong thing. CNN reported that Donald Trump Jr.'s account got banned for 12 hours for saying that masks are unnecessary. It took them 3 hours to take it down, and in that 180 minutes, many people might have went outside without a mask, and they might have risked their life because of the president's son's tweet. And according to the American Economic Association, the 2016 election was highly influenced by social media. There was a lot of fake news stories. 30 million stories were shared in favor of President Trump, and only 18 million were shared in favor of Hillary Clinton, which made the election unfair. And many adults saw those, and some of them might have even changed their sides because of fake news. And if the government regulates social media, there would be much less fake news. If you look at Singapore, they regulate very tightly, and there's almost no fake news. There's also one of the least deaths in the world there. They only have 27 deaths because of coronavirus, because there's no division in thoughts, and everyone will wear a mask. And in conclusion, 1. Cyberbullying isn't getting any better in social media, so you should regulate social media. And 2, I'd rather have more safety and less freedom than the other way around. That is why I think the government should regulate social media. Thank you for listening, and I hope you go pro.
Thank you, Jay. So Jay has just given us his main arguments for why he agrees with our resolution topic statement. So now at this time, William is going to come and he's going to do a 2-minute cross-examination of Jay, where he'll ask him questions about his ideas and press him for more information on specific details. So William, 2 minutes on the clock for your cross-examination. You may begin whenever you're ready.
You're muted.
Oh, William, I believe you're still muted.
So Jay, you mentioned in your speech that there was a percentage of people every year that committed suicide due to cyberbullying. Do you know the actual percentage?
It's less than 1%, but there's a lot of people that go on social media. So just because it's less than 1% doesn't mean it's a very big number.
I think that answers the question. And wouldn't you agree that influence on social media is very similar to talking in real life, and isn't it just part of a campaign that people would post influence on social media?
I know, but then there's like a recommended section, and the recommended section came 30 million times for President Trump and only 18 million times for Hillary Clinton. So therefore, there was more like Trump stories than Clinton stories.
Isn't that part of the campaigner's own decisions to market their campaign?
Yeah, maybe, but it was still fake news, so that none of that stuff was actually true.
Do you expect everyone to believe anything they see on the internet?
I don't know, but do you think people won't believe it?
Right. Well, you also mentioned that at the beginning that there was a gunman at the beginning of your speech. But you mentioned that social media companies couldn't live censor it. Do you expect the government to censor it live?
I didn't think they would censor it. They would just take the stream down, and also send a bit more police there too.
Do you expect them to censor all the millions of streams that are happening, probably even right now?
Well, they wouldn't be able to get every single stream, but they would get more. And if
exactly,
they would
censor what if a stream like this leaked through their censorship?
And that's time for the end of cross-examination. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Now, at this time, William will be giving his opening speech, where he will describe his arguments for why he disagrees with the resolution, with the topic statement. So, William, I have 4 minutes set on the clock whenever you're ready to begin.
Social media is a place where one can post their thoughts on many topics and where they can converse with others on the internet. It is also something that most people use daily. Government regulation of social media companies does more harm than good. Social media, since it has always been a place where people have conversed with others, and restricting it will have many problems. I have 3 arguments for this. Firstly, government regulation is unnecessary and will waste resources. Second, government regulation will be violating the First Amendment. And third, it will cause many disagreements. Firstly, Government regulation is unnecessary. The Cato Institute states that there are many reasons for this, such as preventing harms caused by fake news or other content lies well beyond the jurisdiction of the government. Tech firms appear determined to deal with such harms, leaving little for the government to do. Tech firms have the ability to and want to regulate their own social media sites, since having a safe and secure site draws more users to it, and much more than if they weren't regulated. This results in more companies wanting to advertise on their site and therefore resulting in their own gain. This means that the government will be wasting resources by censoring social media. Secondly, government regulation would be violating the First Amendment. Individual speech is highly protected in the United States. The online activities of social media companies also has considerable protection from government regulation. The First Amendment states that everyone has the freedom of speech, and regulating what is posted on social media violates that law. Allowing the regulation of social media means that there could be unintentional or intentional bias of the public. For example, social media regulation can cause the Democratic Party in power to bias the public to re-elect them. The people or algorithms regulating also have power over public opinion. Government regulation would cause many disagreements. Consider misinformation or fake news, for example. Who decides what is fake and what is not? Who decides whether it's satire or intention to create harm? Even if the intention is to create harm, who decides when it is permitted, freedom of expression, or prohibited? And when someone decides, what if most people disagree? Will the government put it back up? Even if a law was created to decide, what if some topics are overregulated? Who would decide that? There are just too many things that can cause the disagreement. With public unrest, the people in control can use it further to advantage. Now, those are significant because it would be wasting resources, violating the First Amendment, and would cause large amounts of unrest. Wasting resources is something that can cause many things, and none of them positive. The First Amendment is a law, and the rest is something that can cause many problems as well. For example, it can cause major disagreements or even violence, which isn't good for the country in general. Let's compare both scenarios. One, people cannot post whatever they want on social media and have restricted communication. They can't post anything as simple as what they did that day or what they had for breakfast to their friends and family. They also protest daily because of that problem. The problem becomes larger than it needs to be. However, in our scenario, everyone can freely send their opinions to places where others can read them. No censorship would restrict people's communication with others on the internet. There wouldn't be a huge waste of resources, and there would be none of the problems that their scenario would cause. I now stand ready for a cross-examination.
Thank you very much, William. Jay, you have 2 minutes to cross-examine.
Okay. So, in your first point, you said that government is unnecessary because the tech firms can self-regulate. So, why do you think social media teams will do better than the government teams? You're on mute again.
Wouldn't government teams be similar to social media teams? Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah, in your first point, you said that it's unnecessary because they can self-regulate. But why would social media teams do better than government teams?
Yeah, because wouldn't the teams be similar, made by similar technicians and similar professionals who can do those things?
I know, but one team, okay. And the First Amendment was written 200 years ago, and if there's like a big issue, would you change it?
Isn't the principle similar though? Isn't the principle of free speech the same? Has it changed drastically? Not really.
Okay, and your third point, you said it would cause a lot of disagreement, but do you agree that everything causes disagreement? Because if you say something,
No, but this certain topic will. For example, a lot of people consider Fox News to be fake news, and a lot of people don't. Like, who decide if it's fake news or not?
Okay, but then can you name something that you think isn't a disagreement and that all humans agree on?
That wouldn't really be part of the point, because my point is disagreements, not that there would be disagreements.
All right, and that's time for the end of cross-examination. Thank you, Jay. At this point in the debate process, we're ready to move into the students' refutation speeches. Now, at this point in the debate, these students are going to prepare their attacks against each other's ideas to try to show why their own side is better than their opponents. Jay will have the first refutation speech.
Excuse me, can I leave for
Sorry,
10
what?
seconds? Can I leave for 10 seconds? I need to do something.
You may. So Jay will have the first refutation speech. So Jay, since you have your chance at the first speech, would you like to use some of your 2 minutes of preparation time?
Yes. Can you tell me when 30 seconds pass?
Absolutely. Clock starts now, but I'll let you know when it hits 30 seconds. Now, I just started a stopwatch for Jay with prep time running on it. Each student controls 2 minutes of preparation time during the debate, which they can use whenever they'd like to get ready for their speeches. So Jay has decided to use 30 seconds of his time now. And Jay, that's 30 seconds used.
Okay, please stop the prep time.
I have 3 minutes set on the clock for your refutation speech. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. So, in your first point, you said that government regulations are unnecessary because they can self-regulate. In his first point, William said that government regulations are unnecessary because companies can self-regulate. But in my speech, I did say a few examples about how they didn't do a good job, and they're not continuing doing a good job. They're doing a fine job, but if the government regulates social media, then they'll do a much better job because one is hired by the government, and I would rather trust the government than a platform. And then your second point, you said that the First Amendment protects the government from regulating. But that was written 200 years ago, and this is a very, very this is a very important topic. And if it's a really important topic and you need to change it, you would have to change the First Amendment. Because if some people may call it outdated because back then they didn't have phones or anything like that. And then in your last point, you said, in his last point, William said it will cause many disagreements, but everything causes disagreement. If someone says that's better, it's going to cause a lot of disagreement. So it won't, everything causes disagreement. And he did say who would decide. Well, I have two answers. Either the government could decide if they let the government regulate it, or even the people could decide. They could have a vote, and people could decide who can decide what gets regulated or not. So, in a con world where the government doesn't regulate social media, basically the world we're living right now, it would be much more people streaming gun violence, much more people spreading fake news. But then, if you look on the other hand, in the pro world, the government would regulate social media, and there would be less fake news, less cyberbullying, and there wouldn't even be someone thinking about streaming gun violence. And that is why I think you should go for the pro. I'm done with my refutation.
Thank you very much, Jay. Now William will have his turn to give a refutation speech. William, would you like to use any of your 2 minutes of time to prepare? Oh, you're still muted, William.
Yes, I would like to use 30 seconds of my time.
Okay, 30 seconds starts now. I'll let you know when 30 seconds is used. Be sure to tell me to stop the clock when you're done.
All right.
30 seconds used.
All right, please stop my time.
Clock has stopped. You now have 3 minutes for your refutation speech, William.
My opponent stated in his speeches that people would vote to determine what is regulated. However, there's a simple answer to this. You shouldn't regulate everyone just for a certain group of people. For example, if one person did something and let's say they invested into a company that started going downwards, would everyone lose money? That's not how it works. And so one thing shouldn't affect everyone. And then he also said that the First Amendment was outdated. However, the First Amendment is an amendment, so it's not necessarily part of the original Constitution. It was an amendment to it. If you're going to say amendments are outdated, then you're going to need another amendment, which isn't really, which is kind of not out of your purpose. And you said, so let me compare both ones. One, people can't post whatever they want. Something as simple as what they ate for breakfast. They can't post on social media so that their friends and family could see it because it would be censored or regulated, and at least it would take a little more time. And even so, in our world, there would be you could do things like that. You can, and just if someone doesn't like what's going on in social media or a certain website on social media, they can just leave. They don't need to stay. They don't need to always constantly be on it. And people who feel that way there's usually in social media sites there's a mode that you can turn on that blocks all other content that might be considered inappropriate. And because of that, there are many examples where people don't first of all, they don't need to even be on the site, and even if they do want to, they can simply censor something, or turn on they could only accept messages from their friends or something. And so you mentioned that there's a live stream where there was a gunning. Yet you expect the government to be able to live censor things. First of all, if one of those streams get through, the whole purpose is defeated. And you said that you expected them to get most of the streams. As long as one of them get through, the whole purpose of the censorship is defeated, and there's no reason for it, and it becomes a huge waste. Along with that, you mentioned that you didn't know the actual percentage of suicide rates due to cyberbullying, and that you mentioned even because of the large amount of people who use social media, it's actually quite large. Well, most of those people actually have other outside sources adding to that, and it's not just because they were cyberbullied on social media, and usually it's just a small amount. That's it. So I hope you go vote for the con side.
Thank you, William. That's going to conclude the refutation portion of this debate. Now we're ready to move into the final phase, the closing speeches. Now at this point, Jay and William are going to prepare their very final thoughts, their very last arguments for why they believe their side is going to come out victorious, why they believe their side is going to win the debate. So Jay?
Can you just run my prep time and I'll tell you when to stop?
Absolutely. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining. Clock starts now. Now, while Jay is preparing this speech, this particular speech is very important in the debate because it's their last chance to make their final plea to you as the audience or to the judge for why they believe they should win. And whatever they say in this speech might be the very last thing their audience remembers. So it's critical that they come up with a very clear and memorable way to describe their arguments to be as persuasive as possible. Jay, are you ready?
Okay. So, in your refutation, The first thing you said is that I said that the first thing William said, my opponent, said that voting wouldn't matter because it's only one person who did it, but everyone else shouldn't get restricted. But an example of that would be if one person gets like out, how do you know other people won't do it too? It's for safety. It's not for like just because one person does it, not everyone will do it. That is true, but it's for safety. And if you want to keep people safe, then you should regulate it. And I didn't say that in his second point, he said that I didn't. He said that I said the thing is the First Amendment is outdated, but I didn't say that. I said that some people think that. So I don't think that it's outdated. I think there may be a need for change, but I don't know if it's outdated. And what you think is regulation is that the government's team will get all of the posts and have to approve or disapprove. But what it will be is they post it, and then the government's team will take everything down that's not good. So you can post anything, but they'll take it down in a matter of time, 10, 20 minutes. And that is, as you can see, that's why you should go for the pro side and the government should regulate social media. Because one, regulating social media will cut down cyberbullying because it's going up, up, and up. And two, I'd rather have more safety and less freedom than the other way around. And I think I'm done with my conclusion.
Thank you very much, Jay. William, if you could unmute for a moment.
Yes.
Would you like to use any time to prepare?
I would like to use the rest of my time to prepare.
All right, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining. Clock starts now. All right, your time is up, William. You now have 2 minutes for your final speech. You can begin whenever you're ready.
So I would like to begin with a quick refutation. My opponent, first of all, didn't have any sources for his first argument, that the example of the gunman. He didn't have any sources. He just simply stated that it happened. So for all we know, he could have just made that one up. Second of all, some social media regulation can cause dangerous things. For example, if there's, for example, a virus in a certain area, and people don't share the information, they think it's going to go away in like 2 minutes. They don't share the information on social media, or the government thinks it's fake news, and it gets censored, it could spread and end up like what's currently happening. But also, my opponent stated that that she wanted safety over freedom. However, his scenario isn't necessarily safe. since he mentioned that, and he never really gave a refutation to my point that the government can't necessarily censor everything. And he just said that it's just to keep people safe, but that's not really a refutation to something than me stating that he can't keep it safe. And for example, if someone told you that if someone told you that there was suddenly someone else running for president, I don't know, like a random person, most people wouldn't believe it. Okay, anyone who believes it they would have to look into it more. They wouldn't just believe it on a whim, for example. And so let me just compare both worlds. One, people can say what they want. They can post simple things on social media and not have like delayed by like 5 hours. And they can send text messages to people whenever they want. There's no regulation, and it's relatively safe. However, on my opponent's side, it's not really safe, and people don't have their freedom. So it's kind of a giant waste of resources and time. No one's really well, people are trying to, but it's not really successful because there's no really way to completely censor everything.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for that presentation. That's going to conclude our first debate for this afternoon. So thank you, Jay and William. Our next pair of debaters for this afternoon is Evan and Gia. So Evan and Gia, if you could join me on screen, we'll get you ready to go. Evan is going to be our pro speaker, advocating in favor of our resolution, our topic, government regulation of social media does more good than harm, while Gia will be our con speaker, taking the opposing position, disagreeing with the topic statement. So Evan and Gia, if you will unmute and get ready to speak. I have 4 minutes on the clock for Evan's first opening speech.
Okay. More than half of this world uses social media, and we need to protect them. Social media can be a very dangerous place. This is why government regulation of social media companies does more good than harm. I believe this is the case for 3 main reasons. My first reason is that there's a lot of cyberbullying on social media. My second reason is that there's also a lot of inappropriate content on social media. And my final reason is that a lot of people get misinformed on social media. My first reason is that government regulation will reduce cyberbullying. According to PewResearch.org, 59% of US teens have been cyberbullied at some point in their life. This shows that cyberbullying is a big problem. The Child Safety Foundation said that cyberbullying can lead to suicide and that government regulation is crucial. This shows that kids who get cyberbullied can get depressed and even commit suicide. Government regulation is absolutely essential to stop cyberbullying. Social media shouldn't be harmful and cause problems for people. More than half of teens in the US have been cyberbullied, and it's a big problem. If the government regulated social media, everyone would be a lot more safe, and people will be able to go on social media without having to worry about cyberbullying. My second point is that government regulation stops inappropriate content. Inappropriate content can include violence, pornography, as well as hate. According to Cyber Safety Pacifica, inappropriate content damages children's well-being and health. Seeing inappropriate content can also cause kids to have depression or do unusual things. Children in America are no longer safe to go on social media because of inappropriate content. The government needs to step in and save them. If the government does regulate, kids will be safe to venture on social media without having to worry about inappropriate content. Social media would become a lot more safe for children everywhere. My final point is that government regulation will prevent misinformation on social media. According to proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, most people use social media as a source for news. This shows that if they get false information, they might believe it and they might do unnecessary things. For example, the New York Times asked for examples of political misinformation, and more than 4,000 people replied. One example was a manipulated photo of governor candidate Stacey Abrams holding her sign, which once changed said that she was a communist. This shows that misinformation is a really big deal. The government needs to step in order to deal with misinformation. If people get misinformation, they might take big actions that can ruin their life. Government regulation will prevent all of this, and people will be able to trust news on social media. In conclusion, government regulation of social media companies does more good than harm because, number one, there's a lot of cyberbullying on social media, and government regulation can prevent that. Number two, government regulation will block inappropriate content. And finally, there's a lot of misinformation on social media that needs to be regulated. If the government regulates social media, we can protect the half of the world that uses it. I hope you go pro.
Thank you, Evan. At this time, we're ready for Gia to come and do her 2-minute cross-examination of Evan and his ideas. So Gia, I have 2 minutes on the clock waiting for you whenever you're ready to begin.
Okay, my time starts now. So what percentage of the kids who have been cyberbullied end up getting depressed?
Depressed? Well, I mean, I don't have the exact number of the percentage, but I do know that a lot of people who get cyberbullied will get depressed because, well, if you get bullied, then you're not going to stay happy all the time. You're going to get depressed. They might not.
How do you know that people are actually going to believe the misinfo?
Well, some people. Well, in my evidence, I said that a lot of people use social media as a source for news, and some people, if the news isn't like that crazy, they might believe it, but it could force them to take big actions that could be really bad for them.
What kind of unusual thing? In your second argument, you said that kids that see inappropriate content would do unusual things. What kind of unusual things are you talking about there?
Well, it varies depending on the kid and what kind of inappropriate content they see. But like I haven't personally, like I don't know because they're not gonna be good things. They're gonna be bad.
What's the age range of people that are on social media, from kids to adults? What's the age range there?
Okay, well, I don't have the exact number again, but I would say it's from like pretty little to pretty old. I mean, there's a lot of people that use social media.
And that's time.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Evan and Gia. Gia, are you ready to begin your opening speech?
Hold on. Okay.
I have 4 minutes on the clock whenever you're ready to begin.
My time starts now. My first point is that government regulate. Oh wait, so can I start over?
Go ahead and continue. Go ahead.
Okay. Can't send, rejected, blocked. That is what we're going to start seeing all over the internet if my opponent wins this debate. Government regulations of social media companies can do more harm than good. North Korea holds a lot of power on the internet, and that is how the government keeps them from pushing against their rules. Government regulations of social media companies can also take away our right to free speech. These reasons are reasons why the government should not be allowed to regulate social media companies. My first point is that government regulations of social media limit access to the news. Government leaders want to remain in control. That gives them a need to cover up things that will make them look bad. Social media is a good place to share news and other information. According to the New York Times, in North Korea, people have very limited access to social media and only get to see things that the government wants them to. North Korea limits the news so that their citizens think that they are the best country. This is how the government controls people's day-to-day lives. Unless we want this to start happening all over the place, we need to not have social media regulations. This will help people to share things with their friends and families. My second point is that government regulations of social media companies keeps people from having free speech. The government does not want people to connect and share ideas that they may not like. During times like this, being able to connect with family and friends is very important. When you live far away from other families, it is always good to be able to contact them. However, Facebook is often used to share pictures and stories that the government would not always like to have on Facebook and other social media platforms. For example, things about elections and beliefs that don't match their own could be blocked. This would violate the First Amendment. We're supposed to have free speech, but they could start taking that away if given the power to regulate social media companies. According to the Cato Institute, social media are platforms, not publishers. If social media platforms were publishers, the owners would be able to edit what people post. But since they're platforms, people should be able to post things freely without being edited or blocked. If my opponent wins this debate, we might not be able to talk about politics and speak out against the government on social media. Government regulations of social media companies can do more harm than good. North Korea has too much power over their social media, and now the people have no say in anything. Government regulations of social media companies can also take away our right to free speech. These are all reasons that the government should not be allowed to regulate social media companies and that the con side should win. I now stand ready for cross-examination.
Evan, 2 minutes.
All right. So in your speech, you said that North Korea limits access to news because they don't want their residents to know about things they don't want them to know, and because yeah. So are you implying that the United States is a dictatorship like North Korea?
I am not implying that it is a dictatorship.
Okay. So are you saying that we're going to become like North Korea?
We could easily become like North Korea, yes.
Okay. In your second argument, you talked about free speech. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So why exactly would the government take away like communication? Like if people wanted to talk, why would the government just say no, you can't?
The government would try to block things that they don't want to be shown, and so it'd be really hard for people to post things that go against the person in charge, like the president's beliefs. It would be hard for them to write anything that the president does not think is right. It would be hard for them to speak out and say anything that would go against the government.
Okay. So, okay, this is a clarification question. You said Facebook, said something about Facebook. Can you just repeat that?
Um, I said that people can sometimes post things on Facebook and other social media platforms that the government would not always like to be on there.
And that's time for the end of cross-examination.
Okay.
All right, at this point, we're ready to move into our refutation speeches. Evan, you have the first one. Would you like to use some of your 2 minutes to prepare?
Yeah, can you notify me when it reaches 30 seconds?
Absolutely. The clock starts now. 30 seconds used.
Okay, I think you can, I think I might, you can stop the time.
Okay.
Okay.
3 minutes on the clock. Start
Okay.
whenever you're ready.
All right. My time starts now. Okay, so in my opponent Gia's speech, she mentioned that people would not be able to access news and they wouldn't be able to talk to each other. But first of all, social media is really not the only way that you can communicate, like by far. Like it's only one platform that you can communicate with each other. There's a lot of other methods that people can use to talk to each other, and like about whatever they want. And social media really isn't like the only way. Okay. Also, you said something about the First Amendment. Okay, but we're not exactly breaking the First Amendment. Well, we're kind of the First Amendment was like in a different age, and it's a lot different than life now, and our life is kind of different, and we have a lot of different rules and everything. And yeah, we have a lot of different rules, and so we have to have laws in place, like speeding. We have to have speed limits, cyberbullying, misinformation, uh, inappropriate content. Those are all things that need to be controlled with laws. Okay. In my opponent Gia's world, everything you have no safety. You get cyberbullied all the time. You get misinformation all the time that could lead to really bad things. You can also see really inappropriate content, which can also cause lots of problems. And everyone isn't safe, and they basically also have no freedom, because if you're not safe, then you also don't have freedom. And in my world, everyone is safe. You still have freedom. It's not like we're taking away everything. No, you can still talk. You still have freedom. But the most important thing is you still have safety. You won't be cyberbullied. You won't get misinformation, and you won't get inappropriate content. You'll be safe to live your life, and everything will be good. You won't have to commit suicide, and everything will be fine. Okay, and that is why you should vote for the pros.
All right, thank you, Evan. Gia, would you like to use any of your 2 minutes to prepare for your speech?
I would not.
All right, Gia has decided that she's not going to use any of her prep time. So that just means that she'll have even more time to prepare for her closing speech at the end of the debate.
My
So in
time
that
starts.
case, you may begin.
My time starts now. In my opponent Evan's third argument, he says that a lot of people use social media for news, and a lot of that news can be misinformation. But the Senate actually recently proved that Russia was putting fake news up on the internet and social media platforms during the 2016 elections, and Trump was helping to lead that. So people are now going to look more carefully to figure out what is fake news and what isn't. So we don't really need to block fake news. A lot of in my argument, I give people the right to say something. Some of those fake news things might be just stories that people want to tell, and it gives them, when you go con, you get the right to put whatever you want out there. In my opponent Evan's first argument, he says that most of the teens more than half of the teens have been cyberbullied. A very, very small percentage of those teens actually committed suicide. And he said that most of the kids who get cyberbullied get depressed. I know that this cannot be true, as you do not get depressed after just a few times being cyberbullied. It would take being cyberbullied a lot, and maybe even being threatened, to become depressed. And a lot of kids had been bullied in their life before that. And I know teen brains are different than kid brains or younger kid brains, but they still don't get depressed. They still don't get depressed that easily. In my opponent's world, everything would be restricted. It would be very hard to share stories. They might even start blocking anything about the government that the government doesn't think is true. They could start reading your personal emails and texts, monitoring phone calls, and nobody wants that to happen. But in my world, we would have regular laws like the ones that we have now, but we wouldn't have extra laws on social media. If parents didn't feel safe about their kids going on social media, they could keep their kids off of social media and just not allow them to. The world would be the same way it is now, which is not the safest, but it still would be better than my opponent's world, because we would be free. We'd be able to do say whatever we want on the internet, and that is why you should vote for pro side.
Thank you, Gia. And that's going to conclude our refutation speeches. We're ready to move on to preparing for closing speeches at this point, and Evan will have the first chance. Evan, would you like to use the minute and 30 seconds you have remaining to prepare?
Yeah, I'll use the time.
All right, clock starts now. And while Evan is preparing, I want to comment on a few of the things that you've seen so far in this debate and the previous debate. You may have noticed that the students at several points have been trying to take each of their opponent's arguments and respond to them in the refutation speeches. But one of the things that you've seen so far is the basic three-step process that we've been working on this week when it comes to doing refutations. First, saying what your opponent said and where they said it, so that the audience and the judge aren't confused at all about what you're talking about. Secondly, explaining the problems with what your opponent is trying to argue, whether it's a lack of evidence or a logical problem, or even just a problem with their assumptions or what they think the basis of their arguments are. And then thirdly, showing why your own side is better. And Gia just did a really great job of doing that at the end of her refutation speech, especially. And you've seen that several times throughout these two debates we've been watching so far.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So Evan, you have 2 minutes for your final closing speech.
2 minutes. Okay. All right, my time starts now. Okay, so in my opponent Gia's refutation speech, she said that the suicidal rates were really low, but even though they might not be the highest, it still affects many, many people. Basically everyone they know is affected, and the people closest to them get affected the most. And she also stated that depression, that if people get bullied, then they won't just have depression. But that's kind of not true, because if you think about it, if you get bullied, it's not like you're just gonna stay happy and you're just gonna be like, yay. You're gonna be depressed. I mean, it's not like a good thing. Like, you'll be very depressed. She also said oh yeah, she said that like people, if they put stories, I think that the government might just take down everything. But the government isn't taking down everything. The government is just taking down like bad things like inappropriate content, cyberbullying, and misinformation. So it's really not like that. And in my world, you're safe, right? You're safe. You're still free. You can talk. You can do whatever. But the most important thing is that you're safe. You won't get cyberbullied. You won't get misinformed, and you won't see inappropriate content. But in my opponent Gia's world, you're not safe. And she even admitted that her world isn't the safest, but we should be trying to make our world the safest. She said that, in like her world, you're not safe. You don't really have freedom because you're not safe, and you can get cyberbullied, you can get misinformed, and you can get inappropriate content. And this
Time's
is why.
up.
Okay. Thank you for your time, and I hope you vote for the pros.
Thank you very much, Evan. Gia, would you like to use any of your time?
I'll use a little bit of it, yeah.
All right, you have 2 minutes remaining. The clock starts now. While Gia is preparing for her speech, as I said on my comments with their refutation speeches, the third step that I've taught them this week for refutation is showing why your side of the debate is better than your opponent's. That's a very critical step in a debate, to any type of argumentation that you're doing. Because it's one thing to prove that your point is correct. It's another thing to show that you have actually given better arguments or better reasons for why your side has the better ideas. So at the end of the debate, in the closing speeches, you may have noticed these students doing this little thing where they describe one world or one scenario, and then they describe an alternative world or another scenario. This is a technique we call world comparison or world building. The helpful thing about this technique is that it allows the students to describe the topic and the results of their arguments in a way that's fairly easy to visualize, and it's a good way to get through a lot of significant ideas in a relatively short amount of time and still have it mean something for the audience. So many of the students this week have done a really great job with that, and I think you've seen a lot of that today. Gia, are you ready to begin your final speech?
I am ready.
Then in that case, go ahead.
My time starts now. And so my opponent Evan said, I don't think he has a clear grasp on what depression is. Depression is not just feeling sad; it's feeling really sad and not being able to get out of bed. He thinks that if you get cyberbullied just once, you will get depressed automatically. That is not what happens. People will get sad and they will end up dealing with it unless they get cyberbullied a lot more. And he also said that in my world, you are not free because you will be cyberbullied and it's not safe. Really, it is safe, because we'll still have all the laws set in place, and you're still not allowed to threaten anybody or hurt anybody. It's just we're not restricting social media as much. So, like my opponent Evan said, instead of for my world, it's his world. His world is the one that's not free. You're not able to do anything that you want to on social media because the government can start regulating it as much, really a lot. And if they start regulating social media, who knows what they'll regulate next? Maybe they'll regulate schools and letters and the newspaper. And we want to have more freedom and not just what the government wants us to have. But in my world, you get more freedom. You don't have any rules about social media except for like the basic rules: be nice, don't try to offend anybody on purpose. But those rules are already set in place. And we know that parents can keep their kids off of social media, and so a lot of kids aren't going to end up seeing inappropriate content. And even though 59% of teens get cyberbullied, that does not mean that 59% of teens commit suicide or get depressed. A very small percentage of that does get depressed, and these are all reasons why the con side is the one to vote for.
And thank you, Gia, for closing off the debate for us with that closing speech. I want to congratulate Evan and Gia for successfully completing that debate and a good ending to their week of camp this week. So good job, Evan and Gia. Thank you very much. The next pair of students that will be debating this afternoon, and our final pair of debaters for this afternoon, are Leanna Gertz and Samuel Kahn. So Leanna and Samuel, if you'll go ahead and join us on screen. Thank you very much. This will be our last debate for this afternoon. Leanna will be our pro speaker, so she'll be giving the first speech in just a moment in favor of government regulation doing more good than harm, while Samuel will be our con speaker, disagreeing with that statement and arguing that the harms outweigh the benefits. So whenever you two are ready, you may begin. I have 4 minutes on the clock for you, Leanna.
My time starts now. Why should we keep government regulations of social media companies? That's a good question. Government regulation of social media companies does more good than harm. There are three main arguments to prove that. My first argument is that government regulations will help prevent cyberbullying. My second argument is that government regulations will help prevent terrorism on social media. My third and last argument is that government regulations can help little kids prevent from seeing inappropriate content. First, government regulations will help prevent cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is such a big problem on social media, and thousands of people and kids are getting cyberbullied across the world. Government regulations can prevent that, though. For example, if the government made a regulation to prevent cyberbullying, wouldn't that be awesome? It could be something like, if you cyberbully someone, you can't go on that social media platform anymore. The Committee of Economic Development, a nonprofit, nonpartisan research organization, said that regulations are indispensable to the proper function of economies and societies. They create the rules of the game for citizens, business, government, and civil society. They underpin markets, protect the rights and safety of citizens, and ensure the delivery of public goods and services. With government regulations, people and kids will not get cyberbullied, parents won't have to worry about it, and teachers will not have to worry about what is going on outside of school unless needed. Secondly, government regulations can prevent terrorism on social media. Investopedia.com says that terrorism acts can cause ripple effects through the economy that have negative impacts. Adding on to Investopedia.com, terrorism also results in injury and death. Terrorism can also start on social media. When someone makes an account on a social media platform, people will see the account. What happens if that account was about an upcoming terrorist attack? In that case, the social media platform that the account is on should find out and report it to the government. Then the government can use the regulation and stop the act of terrorism. With government regulations on terrorism on social media, we can prevent terrorism from happening on social media and harming millions of people. Lastly, government regulations can also prevent little kids from seeing very inappropriate content. When a child finds inappropriate content, it could cause them to act differently. It might be the cause of trauma and anxiety or the cause of a ripple effect. InternetMatters.org says that seeing inappropriate content at a young age can leave children feeling confused and unable to process what they have seen or experienced. But in order to prevent that, we want to use government regulations because we can put up age limits, access to no younger than a certain age limit, using parental control so that parents can see everything going on the social media platform. By using government regulations similar to this, it would lead to peace and protect the kid itself and other kids connected to the child. In order to stay safe, we have to use government regulations because without them, millions of people will get hurt. Kids will not want to go to school because they don't want to get bullied. Kids might act strangely, and there might be another terrorist attack. But in the end, government regulations will change our world in a much better way. I now stand ready for cross-examination.
Thank you very much, Leanna. Samuel, you have 2 minutes.
Yep, let me just. All right. All right. Is inappropriate content on social media illegal?
Inappropriate content on social media is not illegal, but if people, if the government, for example, if they took it down or if they used what I said in my speech, then they can help little kids from getting trauma and anxiety, and they can also help kids from damaging their health.
So you're saying the government should be able to take out something that's perfectly labeled legal to put up and legal to stay on the internet?
See, actually, government regulations will help prevent little kids, many little kids, from seeing inappropriate content, and by taking all of it down, they can help little kids from getting their minds damaged and help them with trauma and anxiety. But I don't know if you are saying if you want little kids to get hurt.
Okay, that answers my question. All right, so preventing terrorism. Do you have any examples of terrorism that started on social media and people saw it and that increased the amount of terrorists, or that actually started the terrorist attack and sparked a terrorist attack that was successful and killed someone or did the intended harm?
No, I don't have any proof on how a terrorist attack started on social media, but I do know that it could definitely happen because no one knows what people are capable of, and it could definitely happen. So I definitely recommend government regulations for that, because without them, many people can get hurt.
But you have no research saying that it can happen?
I don't have any research, but it's very capable of happening.
All right. So your first question, this is totally hypothetical, or your example in your first argument of the government making laws for cyberbullying, that's a totally hypothetical, right?
I actually said regulations, but with government regulations, it can help people. It can help people from getting cyberbullied, and it can help millions of people from getting from starting suicide and from depression and much more like that.
But
And
how?
that's time for the end of cross-examination. Samuel, at this time, we're ready for you to give your opening speech for the con side. I have 4 minutes on the clock. You may begin whenever you're ready.
All right. Starts now. Your friend just disappeared and you're extremely concerned, but you have a hunch on who did it. You think the government did it. You want to share the news of your sister disappearing or your friend disappearing on social media, but the government takes it down, or you know you can't do it because the government will just take it down because that is news against the government. This in America is not very far from happening. This is why I disagree with the idea that that government regulation of social media companies does more good than harm. Now I'm going to share with you 3 main arguments that prove my point. The first argument is that regulation of social media would prevent people from sharing their voices and would prevent free speech. My second argument is that regulation would give the government control over social media and what people can see. And my third and last argument is that the government might waste taxpayer money on regulating social media while the social media companies can do this by themselves. Firstly, regulating social media would prevent people from sharing their voices. Regulating social media would be against the First Amendment. The First Amendment says Congress cannot make any law abridging free speech, so regulating social media would technically violate the law. For example, if someone wants to share a view on a certain political candidate or something, they have a right to do so, but the government might take it down because they do not like it. For example, North Korea has very limited social media, only sharing what they want people to see. This leads to my second point, overregulation of social media. The government regulating social media could lead to corruption and brainwashing the population. If the government can control social media, they can control what people can see. North Korea and China banned social media platforms such as YouTube and Facebook. This is because, according to the New York Times, they do not want people to see what is on those platforms, so the government could spread information that could benefit them. China, according to Business Insider, also banned people from posting negative information about them. Regulating social media could have similar effects on the United States. The United States government could give people information that benefits them. These things all lead to a more totalitarian country. This is why the government should not regulate social media. The companies themselves should. Government regulation would waste taxpayer money on regulating. Companies can regulate this by themselves. Companies can self-regulate to be able to control what is on their websites. If companies can self-regulate, they would not have to deal with potential government interference that they do not want. Companies can also deal with copyright infringements on their websites. Companies can control their own fates this way. In conclusion, you can see that the government regulating social media would do much more good than harm. They could prevent people from sharing their voices, which they have a right to do, and the government could become more corrupt and possibly brainwash people with information that would benefit them. Or they might waste taxpayer money on regulating social media while the companies themselves can't. So finally, the con side of this argument is clearly better than the pro side. I'm now ready for cross-examination.
Thank you, Samuel. Leanna, you have 2 minutes to cross-examine.
Okay. Samuel, I have a question for you. My first question is, for your first argument with your free speech, how does it violate the First Amendment?
If you take away someone's post or their story, say that they have a right to post that, even if the government classifies that as inappropriate. So taking that down would technically violate free speech because they have freedom to say that thing on social media.
My second question is in your second argument. How does negative info affect how people can see, and how does it also come from the government?
No, negative information for my second point was negative information about the government would be taken down because the government does not want that on social media.
Okay. And for your third argument, how can the company self-regulate their information?
This is the same. They can do this the same way that the government can regulate them. So however you think the government can regulate, maybe just filtering posts and taking them down, the companies themselves can do this.
How do you also, in your third argument, how do you know that that the companies, the social media companies, that they don't want to be in teamwork with the government?
I never said that. Sorry, I don't understand how this question is related to the topic.
I asked you, how do you think, how do you know that the social media platforms, the people running it, don't want the government involved?
Because they want to be their own companies. They don't want the government doing things for them.
All right, and that's time. Thank you very much, Leanna. That's going to conclude our opening speeches. We're ready to go on to refutation. Leanna, would you like to use any of your 2 minutes to prepare?
I would like to use 1 minute, please.
All right, 1 minute on the clock. Clock starts now. While Leanna is preparing her refutation speech, I want to comment on another thing that you've seen the students doing today as they've been preparing their speeches. For those of you who had children who went through Public Speaking and Debate 101, your students were hopefully taught to use a certain structure for their arguments, their claim, warrant, and impact structure. Now, with this structure, you begin your argument with a specific claim that you're trying to prove to be true. Then you back it up with a warrant, a reason for why you think it's true, with some evidence to support it. And then finally, you state a clear impact or a significant result of the truth of your argument and how it affects your discussion in the debate. And you've seen these two debaters do a really good job of following that claim, warrant, and impact structure in their opening speeches as they set up their arguments. 1 minute used, Leanna?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Then in that case, I have 3 minutes on the clock for your refutation speech. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm setting my timer. Start now.
My opponent Samuel, in his first argument, he said that the freedom of speech, it would violate the First Amendment. But I actually prefer safety over freedom because I understand that you don't want a guard over your head saying that you can't do this and you only can do this. But safety actually allows you to survive in life, so I would prefer safety over freedom. In his second argument, he said that the negative info, people can see the negative info. Well, obviously, in social media, they're not doing a very good job taking down the info, the negative info, and it could really hurt someone's life if they believe the info. So maybe if you consider, then the government regulations can take down the negative info, but the social media platforms can't. Like right now, they can't take down the negative info, they can't take all of it down, but the government can because they have more access to it, and it's easier for them to do it because they have the most info. And then in your third argument, you said that why shouldn't the social media companies, why shouldn't they just self-regulate themselves? But they shouldn't self-regulate themselves, even though it's the same as the government. The government already chooses really big decisions in life for everyone. And so I just feel that I think that the government should keep on doing stuff like the social media platforms, since they already do most of the work, they can do it again with this. And then the proof that the social media companies, they don't want to work with the government. You never had really any evidence that you wanted, or that you showed that the social media, that they wanted to work with the government. So yeah, that is why you should vote for the pro side, because in my arguments, we have where in the freedom of speech, even though you don't get more freedom, you get less freedom, you can easily still have freedom and you are more able to survive. And then in the second argument, the negative info, if they take down the negative info, then they already do more. But instead of the companies themselves, the government can do it because they already do more and they already make really good decisions in court and everything. So why shouldn't they just do it? And then for his last argument, that they should self-regulate, the government does the same exact thing in court like the other one, the second argument. So shouldn't they just do it themselves?
All right, thank you, Leanna. Samuel, would you like to use any of your 2 minutes to prepare?
Yeah, I would like 20 seconds.
All right, clock starts now. I'll tell you when it hits 20 seconds. Be sure to tell me when you'd like it to stop.
You know what? I can just go right now.
All right, 10 seconds used. You have 1 minute and 50 seconds remaining. And there's 3 minutes on the clock for this speech.
All right, my time starts now. So in my opponent Liana's first, or actually in all her points, she had no real proof of any of her points. In the government regulating terrorism, her second point, she had no examples of terrorist attacks that were actually formed on social media and were actually thought out. Taking down, and for first point, she said that you can make a law or make a regulation, I guess, and that would stop all inappropriate content on social media. But of course, as you can see, this is not actually true. You can't just make a law and everything stops. That can't happen. Examples of this would be like speeding. There's a law against murder. Murder still happens, or like robbing. All laws are broken. So this does not magically stop it. If anything, it will make it happen more. Cyberbullying is a big problem, but making a law does not magically stop this. In her refutation, she said that social media companies aren't doing a good job self-regulating. Maybe they don't want actually to regulate. Maybe they want to have things up on their platforms for everyone to see. I know Facebook is an example of this. Twitter is is regulating some of Donald Trump's tweets, but Facebook wants this out. This is an example. Facebook does not want to work with the government. She said I never answered her question about working with the government. Well, now I'll answer it. Facebook does not want to. Twitter probably does not want to either. Maybe one social media platform favors one party and they don't want, and in office is another party. They don't want that party to be able to regulate their platforms. In her version, she is okay with the government taking the she's okay with government going on pages for terror and to try to take down terrorist attacks. She's okay with the First Amendment being violated, and this is one of the fundamentals of our country for 300 years, and she thinks it can be violated. If you can't violate the First Amendment. This is why you should obviously vote for the con side. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Samuel. At this point, we're going to move into the closing speeches. Leanna, would you like to use any of the time that you have remaining?
Actually, yes. I would like to use 30 seconds, please.
Okay, you have 1 minute left. You're welcome to use all of it, but I'll tell you when you make it to 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
And that's 30 seconds used.
Okay, thank you. Can you stop my timer?
The clock is stopped.
Okay, thank you. And I start now. So in my opponent Samuel's first, well, I guess argument in his refutation, he said that there is no evidence for the terrorist attacks. Yeah, I do know that there is no evidence for the terrorist attacks, but it is very capable of happening. And then he said that cyberbullying was a big problem and it doesn't stop. That is true. It will not stop. Probably in a million years from now, it might, but it's not going to stop now. But it will prevent many people from getting hurt from it. Then he said that social media has everything up, and that he, in his cross-examination, he said that he wanted to take down this the false information with the social media platforms. But then his refutation, he said that everything should be on the social media platform, which includes the false information. So, and then lastly, he thinks that in my first argument that I think that we should violate it, but I don't think we should. I was just thinking that we shouldn't violate it. And so that is why you should vote for pro, because in pro side, you can not fix cyberbullying, but you can prevent it from happening on and on. And then we can take down the false information and make sure it doesn't come up again. And we can also make sure that people are safe, and that even though maybe the First Amendment would be violated, I'd rather take safety than freedom, because freedom lets us have a privilege and an opportunity, while safety is letting us to survive. It lets us stay alive, and it lets us not be in danger. So that is why you should vote for the pro side and not the con.
Thank you, Leanna. Samuel, would you like to use any of your remaining time?
Yeah, I would like to use all of it, actually.
You have 1 minute and 50 seconds remaining. Let me know whenever you're ready, or I will let you know when the clock stops. One of the really difficult things about the closing speeches that these students have been giving in the debates this afternoon is the fact that these speeches are only 2 minutes long. That's not a whole lot of time to condense the most important issues of the debate down into, because at this point there have been 2 opening speeches, cross-examinations, and 2 refutation speeches that all have had a lot of content in them that the audience and the judge have heard. And it's the debater's job to take all of that information and try to boil it down into very simple, easy to understand terms so that you, the judge or the audience, can understand why it's worth it to choose their own side as the winner. Now, this is not only important for the closing speech itself, but this very last critical moment of the debate is very significant in a judge's decision, because if the debate is close, or if there are certain arguments that a judge is trying to consider and to figure out which ones are most important, the way the debaters approach describing them in this final speech could actually make the difference between a win and a loss for the debate. Samuel, are you ready to begin?
I am ready to begin.
All right, then in that case, there's 2 minutes on the clock for the final speech.
That starts now. All right. So I forgot to mention, inappropriate content is not against the law, so you can't actually take it down. She admitted that herself in the cross-examination process, so you can't take down something that's not against the law. That is not okay. Of course, the con side would win because it would violate free speech for the pro side to win. And she said, well, first she said that she does not want to violate the First Amendment, but later she said it's okay to violate the First Amendment. She contradicted herself, but regulating social media would violate the First Amendment, and it'd also be against the law by taking down not unlawful content, and that would probably be against the law. I also never said I never contradicted myself on the false information, or I don't think I did. She got that wrong as well. And my second main point is America can become more totalitarian. And I know no one here wants America to become more totalitarian. And if we regulate social media, that could very well happen. I said I'm okay with false news being up, and I might have said this, but that's not what I meant. I meant you can't, sometimes some people might think something is false news and other things aren't, and it's very hard to decide between what is false news. So that was my point. And of course, my third argument was wasting taxpayer money, and this is very valuable to a lot of people, so that's another reason why we should not regulate social media. In her version of the world, America can become a totalitarian place where the government can go onto your social media accounts, take down whatever they want, spread information that they want to, and take down news that is up and they do not like. However, if I win, this world would stay the same as it is. And although this world might have many problems such as cyberbullying and other problems she stated, it would obviously be a much better place than the place I just described, which is like China or North Korea. This is why you need to vote for the con side. That's 2 minutes.
And that's time. Thank you very much, Samuel, and Leanna as well. Congratulations on completing that debate and your week of camp in Debate 201. And I want to thank all of the students, every single last one of them, for all of the hard work and effort that they've put into this week. This week could not have been as successful as it has been if it had not been for their commitment, their determination, and their hard work and focus, even just over the past few short days. And parents, if after watching this, if this has not given you confidence that your students have actually made really great progress this week, I want to tell you, as someone who watched them come into this class at the beginning and to see what they've just done, they have learned so much this week that I couldn't even begin to describe for you in the time that we have. But I would like to say this to each and every one of the students: this does not have to be the end for you. Whether you get to participate in our club league in the fall, or even if you don't, the skills that you've learned and the abilities that you've been working on this week These are things that can help you and serve you well for the rest of your lives. These are skills that are going to help you out in your school, in high school. These are skills that are going to help you out in job interviews. These are skills that are going to help you out when you get to college, and skills that are going to help you out as you learn to just be a good citizen in society, being able to sort through issues and being able to understand problems in our world and how to address them. And I know that even though you might not be worried about all of that just yet, the things that you're working on right now really are important and valuable. And I'm so proud of each and every one of you for all of the great work you've done on working on all of those this week. And to the parents, as we wrap things up this afternoon, if after watching your children, you've decided, or you're thinking about considering at least, putting your child into our club debate league in the fall so that they can continue doing the things that they just showed to you, I want to extend the opportunity one more time to reach out to us for more information. You can see our phone number there again one more time, 800-450-5012, or you can email us at team@capitaldebate.com for more information. I would love to have the opportunity to work with your children again, and to either with myself or for another instructor, to have the opportunity for them to keep building their skills and to grow even further. These students are young, they're just getting started. But now that they are debaters, there's a great future ahead of them. I would love to see where they can take it from here. So to the parents and the students, I would like to officially declare Debate 201 completed for the summer. And I want to thank you all for a great week of camp and this great showcase that we've all enjoyed this afternoon. So I hope you have a good afternoon, a good weekend, that you'll stay safe and stay healthy as you move on to the next phase of your summer and the fall. Hope to see you again, and thank you for partnering with us here at Capital Debate.